Hello guys, welcome to my YouTube channel about somatic embodiment. My name is Eva and my today's topic is fascia and trauma, emotions stored in the body and especially in fascia. And why is it important for our well-being to be aware of fascia and how the trauma or emotions are stored in our fascia. So, if you haven't heard about fascia, or this is maybe like the second time that you hear about fascia and you have some kind of a vague idea, I would say until a long time ago, fascia hasn't been really a topic. It hasn't been really considered as something that important. And as our consciousness evolves, especially also in the medicine, and the science, actually there are doctors nowadays that are looking more deeply into fascia, and they are also bringing more importance to this organ. In the past, the medicine would kind of discard the fascia as just like an envelope of muscles and organs, and everything that was more important to divide into pieces. Let's say we looked at the human body as pieces that works together, but we were not. So especially in the last 200 years, we kind of went away from the holistic view of medicine, and we start to look at things very separately. So that brings me actually to also fascia is in a way an organ. It's kind of an envelope that it's interconnect all the organs, all the muscle, everything in our body is interconnected through fascia. So how amazing is that? Also, fascia is where lots of, or the most of the nervous system goes through. The blood vessels, etc., goes through fascia. And fascia communicates, let's say, from the toe until it's all interconnected. There is no separation, there is no break. It's all one piece. And fascia envelopes not just muscles, but it also envelopes the organs, the nerves. Everything is enveloped in these fibers of the fascia. And actually, because it hasn't been really studied, fascia is still sort of a mystery. Why I'm talking about fascia is that because it is interconnected throughout our body, it just brings us more into coming back to the realization that we need to look at the body as a whole in the holistic way. And so why am I so passionate about it? Well, I work with the nervous system and I help people to self-regulate themselves, to move certain stuck emotions from their body. And I do work a lot with fascia. I also, I'm a dancer, yoga teacher, and for me motion is extremely important in my life. And I know that, for example, in yoga, fascia is a thing we talk about. We are moving with the fascia, and when we have an injury or anything, there is also a certain approach to the fascia, that the fascia keeps the trauma and often the scar tissue. And it's not just the trauma from accident per se, but it's also emotional trauma. So let's say I have a lot of anger, a lot of anger, which maybe comes from a lot of sadness or fear, or it's a reaction of protecting myself. So the organism literally is protecting itself often when we have these strong emotions, and those that are per se being said they're negative. It's like the contraction. So if my body is protecting itself, I'm angry. Literally, nowadays we can see that, for example, the lining of my stomach when I'm angry changes. And the signals from the brain go through the nerve and go through the fascia to the organs. And often the times, for some reason, especially in as humans, because maybe we have this like mind sort of trying to repress the emotion, or we don't really allow it, or there's patterns, programs interrupting the process of just like motion of the emotion. We tend to sort of trap, like our body keeps it trapped, and often the times actually it's trapped in the fascia, and then of course also in the organs. But first it really does affect the fascia. And even if I have an injury as an impact, the fascia will not just remember the impact, but it also will remember then there's also gonna be an emotional trauma. So some people, for example, they had a stomach surgery and they know that the doctors went through their navel, and until nowadays, 10 years later, they don't like nobody touching their navel, because there's a lot of trauma to the fact that somebody went into their navel and enter their space there. And that fear, that contraction, is in the fascia. So how can we, with this knowledge, what can we do with it? Well, as I said at the beginning, we are a complex being, and we need to look at our bodies and ourselves as a whole. And for me, the fascia comes here, and it's so beautiful because, as I said again, I work with the nervous system, but the nervous system, most of it is in the fascia. So I work also with the fascia. Sometimes I work only on the fascia. And there are certain things we can do through physical touch, manipulation of the fascia, through breathing into certain places as we are creating a vibration or helping the contraction to decontract. And it's a process. I'm very fascinated by this process because I see the results. And sometimes if we work, let's say, on the shoulder, we didn't realize that the shoulder is not the primary cause of the pain in the body, but it's maybe the hip, because of the fascia, because eventually there was emotional or trauma in the hip, and then because of the compensation, the fascia travels up, and then for some reason maybe we start to compensate, and so the shoulder becomes displaced, and the fascia is, you can imagine the fiber sort of gets entangled, and they're not so elastic anymore. They're not thin, but there is a bit of scarf tissues. And so if something is being affected on my body, and often the times we can really start with the feet, the way how we walk, because that's our connection to earth, and that's then affects the whole structure up. But I don't want to make it too complicated, so I just want to say the importance of seeing the complexity and being able to work on the fascia while liberating and releasing some stuck emotions and trauma from the body, from the fascia in the physiological level. And then of course at the same time it's also important to work on the psychological level and the emotional level, and becoming aware where it's coming from, and kind of being able to trace the beginning, the root, and then being also able with the awareness to not repeat that pattern. So it's a combination of these two. But if we completely disregard the fascia, if we just work on the mind and sort of the mind-body approach, we really neglect a big part. And I would even say that it's easier to access this information and release these traumas, release these events, these stuck emotions from our body through working on the fascia and the nervous system. And there are very simple techniques that one can apply on themselves. So I work with TVM, the triple vagal method, and it's a combination of working with the vagus nerve and literally stimulating, activating the vagal tone, and at the same time also working on the fascia, working on developing felt sense and tracking where in the body is there the original cause and what's there, and unraveling that through pressure, vibration, breath, touch, and other techniques that I work with. So I just wanted to make this video. If you have never heard about fascia, or you just kind of heard about it like, oh, it's this container for a muscle, or it's this not so important thing, it is becoming really researched, and through working with the fascia, we can really help our well-being. We can really restore balance, and in the holistic way. And then, of course, as I said, it also involves then to become aware of the patterns, because sometimes I can really just work on the fascia and the things, and then if I don't know where it's coming from, then later on it's also might come back. But in general, when it comes to physical trauma, like from accidents, if we really work on the fascia, and allow the fascia to become elastic, that is 100% success. And it will then allow us in future to not carry chronic pain, to not becoming compensating in our body and creating tensions in other parts of our body. And it's a beautiful process to be able to trace where was the original root, where is the original problem, and from there work up in the fascia and the nervous system. So I encourage you to look up anatomy of fascia. You can I'm sure you can Google that stuff. And if you're curious about my work, when I work with people and how I work through TVM, through somatic therapy with the fascia, don't hesitate to message me, drop me a comment. I'm here for you guys. I'm very passionate about this work, and I see the results. So if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet for more content, please do so. Don't forget to like the video, and I will see you in the next one.